Chair. Good evening. Look, I'm interested in finding out about the level of pre-planning that you may have undertaken in preparation for the proposed marriage equality plebiscite.
Specifically, Senator?
Okay, so whether you have had staff doing work on preparations for it, how many staff, when did they begin?
Well, certainly, Senator. I'll make some general comments. Obviously, there's a proposal before the Parliament to conduct a plebiscite. There's a proposed date. There is legislation before the House, so we are certainly undertaking planning for that process. Senator, sometimes it is difficult for me to unstitch where work for that particular electoral event differs from work we would be doing in any case to prepare for an election. We have a very brief period between electoral events. We run preparation during each electoral cycle. So we have staff that are involved in planning for every electoral event, and they're also obviously doing work at the moment to prepare us for the plebiscite. I can't give you an exact number because it's very difficult to unstitch. As I say, specific preparation for the plebiscite from general preparation, but yes, we are preparing for the plebiscite.
So specifically, I mean, if you've got staff that are preparing for the plebiscite at the same time as they're doing other work, I mean, how many staff would have a focus on ensuring that things are in place for the plebiscite?
I know this sounds like I'm being incredibly difficult, Senator, and it's not meant to be, but we have an elections branch within the AEC that is preparing for the next election, whenever that may be. And as part of that, they're also doing preparation for the plebiscite. So we are doing planning for that at the moment.
Okay, so and how big is that elections branch?
40 people.
40
yeah.
people. And so of those 40 people, I mean, are there specific extra things that would be being planned for the plebiscite, that wouldn't be happening if you didn't have a potential plebiscite?
Senator, following the by now well-documented issues with the 2013 election, we introduced a staged planning process, including an election-ready roadmap to prepare us for each electoral event. And what it means is that we prepare a standard set of planning documents for each electoral event, and we do that in a staged way. So an election in some ways is very like a plebiscite in any case. So that work that we are undertaking has a generic underpinning that is useful for either an election or a plebiscite. And I know this sounds vague. I'm not trying to be difficult, but it's just that's the way that we prepare. So I can't tell you today that there are 5 people specifically working on a plebiscite. Some of the tasks that they are working on are across electoral preparation. So I guess that's about as detailed as I can get.
Are there any tasks that have been brought forward because of the potential of having a plebiscite on the 11th of February?
Clearly we're examining the issues of running a plebiscite on the 11th of February. There are some things we'll need to do for that, including procuring, if the legislation that we see before the House goes forward, procuring premises, for example. We haven't done that yet, but we have a time frame for when we'll need to do that by, and we're working through those sorts of issues.
Okay. So procuring premises, any other things that have been brought forward that that if you've got a timetable of that occurring that you're currently doing?
I'm conscious of procurement. I think I've given public evidence about this previously. In fact, I think it was last year before the Senate Constitutional Affairs Committee. We outlined the sort of preparation that we would go through, costs, figures and other issues at that point.
$60 million or something, I think, which is the
whatever
cost that's been
whatever it was
used.
in that
Yep.
submission. And there's a range of things that we need to do. It would be the same, Senator, if it was a plebiscite, an election, a referendum, or some other electoral event. And they're always the same sorts of things. It's lots of paper, people, polling places, procurement.
So when would you start spending that, $160 million, when would you start spending that for a plebiscite that was on the 11th of February?
Senator, I'll just separate some forms of expenditure here. There are items that we would need to purchase for a plebiscite that are entirely usable for an election. And each electoral cycle, we've adopted a slightly different approach for when we procure those items in any case. Clearly, an election is one of Australia's largest peacetime logistic events, and we need to do some fairly detailed planning for when we procure items, even things like cardboard, for example, for voting screens. We do have an eye on the plebiscite. I have not made yet any large-scale procurement decisions as part of that plebiscite, but much of the equipment that we will purchase, if the plebiscite goes ahead, could be used at an election in any case. But I've made no large-scale procurement decisions yet for a plebiscite on the 11th.
So that leads no large-scale procurement decisions. Have you made some smaller-scale procurement decisions?
Yes, I think we've purchased some items, but in terms of the quantum for that, we would be looking at a very small amount.
Can you give me an estimate?
Sure.
Pablo Carpe, First Assistant Commissioner. Things like counterfoil paper, so that's the paper that's actually carbonated. We have purchased some of that in preparation for, at some point, producing deck vote envelopes.
But
so
in
there are
terms of
small items that are stock, essentially.
In terms of the quantum for that, Senator, it would be in the low tens of thousands, very low tens of thousands. And again, all of those items are reusable at election time in any case.
Mm. And are there any other costs or contracts or anything else that you have expended?
Senator, there will be.
There will be. So when would they be
we have
entailed?
a time frame, and there are many different components that go to make up an election. And I have some key times by which we have to make some decisions.
Can you outline what those key times are?
Well, in aggregate, what I can tell you is that, if we don't make those purchasing decisions by, let's say, mid-December, that is going to make the 11th of February a very difficult date for us to meet.
Right. So that's the critical day. There are no other sort of critical.
There are several critical dates along the way, but
what are the other critical dates along the way?
They're all procurement dates. So
Right.
let me throw that on the table. They're all procurement dates for various items.
And so yes, what you've just said, that if you procure stuff, it's not going to go to waste even if it doesn't happen.
Exactly right.
So what are those procurement dates?
Senator, an election is made up of about 1 million different moving parts, and every single item has a different procurement date.
Would you be able to take that on notice? Could we get the timetable of those procurement dates for the plebiscite on notice?
Yeah, I'll take that on notice. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not just you turn up to a polling place and there's a bit of cardboard.
No, I understand that. It's a big logistical exercise, so there's a lot that you need to do.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.